everybody, I'm Gary Groob. Welcome to NLL Lacrosse Talk on Spanglish World Network, seen on Zingo TV, channel 249 and 250. Please remember to download the Zingo TV app at the respective app stores for iOS and Android devices. While you download, please make sure to rate and leave a comment. Both apps are absolutely free. Zingo TV is available on Google Chromecast, Amazon Fire, Fire TV sticks, Roku sticks, also available on all smart TVs 2016 and above. Now on NLL Lacrosse Talk, allow me to introduce my guest this week, Riley Hutchcraft of the Rochester Nighthawks. Riley, how you doing?
I'm doing good. How about yourself?
Excellent. Thank you for taking the time.
No worries. Thank you for having me. I'm looking forward to it.
Well, it's been quite the year this year, right?
Yeah.
We start off with you backing up, and all of a sudden, due to circumstances, now you've taken the reins and control this team. So, how's that feel? Really, the first time you got that kick, eh?
Yeah, it's been the first time I've really had this many minutes in the NLL, and although we haven't been performing, it's been a pretty cool experience to get to live this part of my career, and the guys on the team are super supportive, and they're letting me do my thing, and I can't complain there. So it's been pretty good.
All right. Let's roll back to the beginning. First question we usually ask all of our guests is, how did you get started in lacrosse?
So growing up, my dad he played lacrosse growing up for the Etobicoke Eclipse and the Hamilton Bengals, and it was just kind of one of those things that once I was born, I was given a lacrosse stick, and I never looked back from there. So I started playing lacrosse in Mimico when I was 3 years old at the baby peanut level, just with a group of kids, and we kind of grew up from there.
Did you always play goal, or do you play forward for a bunch and then
Yeah.
found your way in there?
Yeah, so no, I was a forward. I thought of myself as a very good shooter growing up, and then in Pee Wee, I made the switch to goalie. The game kind of sped up, and my feet weren't what they needed to be, so I tried my hand in goalie, and the rest is history, kind of thing.
Right. Now, growing up in the Mimico program, let's talk about that and the whole program itself. We've had a number of guys on from Peterborough, Orangeville, Brampton, Mimico, but I want to get your perspective on it because you've come up right from the very beginning and just the whole ambiance of it, because it's such a storied program right down to the barn itself.
Yeah, so like you said, you named off a couple organizations that kind of built their programs from the ground up, and I think Mimico has done the same there, and it's a pretty special organization to play for. Not everyone, or sorry, everyone in that organization, you walk past them in the arena, you know their story, you know who they are, and it's like a big family, and it's pretty special growing up and being able to look forward to playing for a junior A franchise because of that's what you did as a kid. Like as a kid, I remember growing up and going to junior B games, and it was just a special atmosphere. It was a sense of home and a sense of family in that organization.
But even for the fans, the fans that come there religiously, the whole spirit, the whole ambiance of everything in there, like to bleed blue, as it says on the wall, is the truth. Like everybody lives it there.
Yeah, exactly. It's a lifestyle. Like you said, everybody bleeds blue, and you can ask anybody from Mimico um, their summer plans, and you're going to get the same answer from everyone. They're going to be either at the Mimico Arena cheering on the junior A team, or they're going to be at some tournament having a barbecue and playing in tournaments all across Ontario, and they're bleeding blue. So it goes the same from the time you're in baby peanut all the way till you're 21 and you're playing junior A lacrosse. It's a lifestyle, and it's a band of brothers, and it's one of those things that I'm pretty fortunate to be a part of.
And probably the greatest pea meal bacon sandwich I've ever had. it's,
Oh
it's
yeah,
just
I've
incredible.
I've had a couple of those in my day, and they are the best female bacon. I don't know what he does to them, but it's those are pretty bang on.
it's almost secondary. There's a game. Wow, wow.
Exactly.
The whole thing from the moment you park to the moment you go in to the moment you come up. The whole experience is top notch. Still one of my favorites there, and probably in Peterborough for an MSL game and watching everything go on there is probably the two that rival one another in just the sheer should we use the word expectation of things to happen.
Yeah, exactly. Like he just pointed to, the Peterborough Lakers MSL team does it right, and it's the same type atmosphere, just a ton smaller in Mimico, and you have your older generation of fans coming in, and they're supporting you from the time you step on the floor uh, for your first game in Junior A, and then they're still supporting you, even though we don't have a Senior A team in Mimico. Every time you step back in the Mimico Lacrosse Arena, those the older generations are asking you how you're doing, and they want to be a part of your life, and it's pretty special in that regards.
Absolutely. Absolutely. Let's talk about some of the coaches that you had over the years, because I know, again, storied tradition and coaches all through this program.
Yeah. So growing up, we had three coaches: Johnny Grimes, Johnny Ledesic, and Evan Blada, and they actually played Mimico lacrosse growing up. So they came back and they gave back to the game, and they kind of kickstarted our development in the lacrosse world, and they got us to the lacrosse team we are. And then once we got to junior, Steve Toll had taken the reins on the bench along with Johnny Grimes, and they did a great job. And I owe nothing but respects to those people, because they got me to the place where I am now. So
Right. Now, going into Junior A, that team grew and grew. From 2015 when you joined in and it was building, 2016 and it was a force, 2017 you're into the Minto Cup. Let's talk about that team, because I just happen to have that Minto Cup program,
yeah,
and I'm looking at the team, and just to name the NLLers that are on there, we've got you got Devlin Shanahan, John Donville, Jack Subak, Peyton Cormier, who's going to be an NLLer, Thomas McConvey, Warren Jeffrey. The list goes on and on. Tanner Thompson, Alex Simons. It goes on and on and on of just going to be NLLers, and just an incredible team. And you guys were spectacular going through that playoffs. We're going to get to that Brampton series in a minute, but just through the playoffs, it was just to watch you guys. It was watching the NLL come in junior form.
yeah, exactly. So we had a plan in 2015. We knew we weren't going to be the greatest team coming into the Junior A ranks, but we knew that we had the guys to eventually do it, and that came to fruition in 2017, like you said, throughout that playoffs. And those guys on the team that you named that are in the NLL now, they they just grinded, and that was our mentality as a organization: is we're not going to get the respect we deserve, so we're going to have to go out and we're going to have to earn it. And that's exactly what we did. We were the underdogs or on paper underdogs in each of the series, and we didn't care about that. We just went out, we played our game, and we ended up making it to the Minto Cup. And although we came short, we felt like it was a successful season for the organization, because yeah, we weren't even supposed to be in that Minto Cup, and it was a pretty special team to be a part of. But yeah, you just knew, kind of sitting in that dressing room, that looking across again a bunch at all the guys in that dressing room, you knew that a handful of us were going to be in the NLL one day, and we were going to be contributors in this league. So it was
Mhm.
just special to be a part of that team.
Absolutely. Now we've talked briefly about it, but I want to get into it. The playoff series, you guys make it to the finals, and you're the underdogs against Brampton. And Brampton has Clark Peterson, Jeff Teat, and a whole list of another group of soon-to-be NLLers. And they were the cock of the walk, so to speak, throughout the league during the year. Right from the word go, the tone was set, even before the first game was played out in Memorial. Let's talk about that and just the mindset of the team to be that focused that everything, because you guys sent a message right away.
Yeah, so it kind of started before even the that playoffs even started. That group in Brampton, we kind of had a rivalry since Pee Wee, and it wasn't something that started right before the series. It wasn't something that started right when the first whistle happened. It was like a couple years of, or a lot of years of battles against that specific group, and there was just the sense of they were better than us and they thought they were going to walk all over us. And it kind of, there at the beginning of the year, the Brampton team had given the option for an automatic bid because they were hosting the Minto Cup at the time, and they had denied it. And it was just kind of like a big fuck you to the whole league kind of thing. And we took that personally going into the series, like, oh, they think they're going to roll over us here, and they think that they're going to get to this Minto Cup. And we took that personally. And there was a battle that ensued before the series had even started, because there was a couple guys that thought it was okay to shoot balls at us as we're walking off the floor in Brampton Memorial. And we didn't take exception to that. And we told them that if they're going to do that, it's going to be a long series, and it's going to start now. And so that battle happened beforehand. And I think it kind of set the tone for the whole playoff series. And then the battle grew throughout that series. We there was countless fights on the floor. The crowds were massive, and I think that's what played into the whole severity of that series. Everybody, if you were a player to if you were just a fan in the stands, they knew that series meant something to each and every one of us on the floor. And it was a battle, but we kind of had that mentality that no matter what happens here, we're going to beat you, and we're going to beat you hard. And we ended up winning in Brampton in game 5. And it was one of the most like rewarding experiences in my lacrosse career to date. I know that there's been a lot of championships that my team has won, but to beat them in that specific scenario, in that historic barn with all those fans, with the guys on our team, it was just a special moment. And yeah, one of those moments that I'm going to cherish for a long time.
Those last couple of games were crazy. I was at every one of those games, and there was as much tension in the crowd as there was on the floor between the rival groups. But the I guess the game tying win in Mimico was nuts. That
Mhm.
game was absolutely insane. It took a little time for it to get going, but boy, by the second period, it had just grown to some incredible tension on the floor. Let alone with the bickering back and forth between players and fans and everything else that was going on. It was wild because I remember sitting just beside the penalty box, and it was as crazy in there as it was on the floor.
Yeah. Yeah, no, exactly. And I think those last two games were probably the hardest fought games in the series, and rightfully so. Like Jeff Teed and Clark Peterson, you had mentioned before, they were a deadly combo for the Brampton team. And there was a little history on the Clark Peterson side of things. He had grown up in Mimico, so he had obviously wanted to play hard and beat us because of how he played in Mimico. And we had the mentality of we can't let him beat us because we don't want a Mimico boy beating a Mimico team. And but yeah, those two games were crazy. I remember I think they were back-to-back nights, or there was one game in between. And then that game 5 was a battle both on the floor and mentally. Like I remember showing up to the rink for game 5, and my equipment had still been 20 pounds because the sweat hadn't
Mm-hmm.
dried out of them yet. And by the time the third period came, Steve Toll came to me in the second intermission, and I was drinking water. I was down. I had my head between my legs, and he knew I was battling. He came up to me and he said, "Listen, like, do you want to break? Like, do you want to? We can put Shanny in for the third period. We could." And I was like, "Heck no! Like, I'm gonna go out there and I'm gonna give it all." But yeah, I remember in the third period, there was one point where I looked up and a shot came and the ball looked like there was 3 balls coming at me because of how hot it was in that rink, just the summer heat in Brampton Memorial. And
Oh, that place is insane in the summer.
exactly. So the battle both on the floor and mentally were equally as tough, but it was just rewarding to finally hear that buzzard.
And to
Um,
win on their home floor in front of
ex-
that crowd because it was packed.
exactly. I think they had to start denying people at the door because they had reached capacity, and the it was crazy how the left side of Brampton Memorial was all Mimico fans, and then the right side was all Brampton fans, and it just was a back and forth battle between even the fans in the game, and just to have that much support from all the Mimico fans coming down to Brampton was special and rewarding at the end of it when we had finally beat them.
Right. So you get into the Minto Cup and you're playing, well, the biggest one in there was Six Nations, and they had just as many NLLers to be as you guys. And probably the game that really stands out the most of everything in there was um, the one game that you guys played Six Nations. And of course, Nanacoke and all these guys are on their thing, but you're lights out. You're playing absolutely probably the best lacrosse I'd seen you play to that point.
Yeah, it was good. And like you said, Six Nations had a powerful offensive roster. They had Austin Stats. They had Brendan Bomber. They had Tohoku Nanatoke. And it was like just so many future NLLers at that point. And it was a battle in itself to play against those guys. And um, it was it was a different mindset than we had against Brampton, and um, it was a battle, and they were a good team, and it showed why they were the eventual Minto Cup champions is because they worked just as hard as we did, and they had the offensive firepower that could put up 14, 15 a night, and it was a tough battle for myself, but we we tried our best, and unfortunately it wasn't good enough. But that whole Minto Cup was filled with NLLers. Like Coquitlam had Christian Del Bianco in between the pipes. The Calgary
Mhm.
team had Kevin Orlam in between the pipes. They had Brett Craig on their defense. It was just the whole Minto Cup rosters were filled with future NLLers, and it was a pretty special and humbling experience, I would say, to be a part of that Minto Cup in 2017.
Mhm. Been to a number of Minto Cups. That's probably my favorite, and it stands out with all of them that I've been to. And I just couldn't get enough of that. And I was almost sorry that when the tournament was over and in August, I was like, Jesus, I wish this could go on because you knew that everybody was going to disperse. And and sure enough, the next year, you guys had a strong team, but obviously not as strong because guys had already started moving.
Yeah, exactly. So I think our plan was the 2017 Minto Cup was kind of our year to do it. We had Tanner Thompson, like you said in the pre-show, and he was a focal point of our offense at the time, and he was
Mhm.
scoring a lot of goals at that time. And then you had guys like we had acquired for Andrew Q at the trade deadline. So he was a big part of our left side. And then we had Donville and Ben French, Justin Scott on our offense, just guys that um, knew how to put the ball in the net. And our defense was like it was. It was a strong, beat you down type defense.
Mhm.
And we thought that 2017 was the year to do it. So the next year, unfortunately, we didn't make it to the Minto Cup again, but we kind of knew that if we were going to do it, it was the year before. But we matched up with Brampton again, and I think they took it a little bit more personally that what happened the year before, and they kind of stuck it to us in the first round of the playoffs again, and they ended up making it all the way to the Minto Cup, and they had a great team too. They had the same guys, but they added that one piece that I think they were missing before, and
Stephen Orleman, yeah.
Stephen Orleman, and he stood tall, and Clark Peterson and Jeff Teat did their thing, and kudos to them because they were a good team the next year, and I think they were deserving of getting to that Minto Cup, and they came short too. But it's a tough task in itself to get to the Minto Cup, and
Absolutely.
they had the team that year, and they deserved it.
It's amazing when you look at all those players, and that's an all-star team now in the NLL. That's an all-star
Exactly.
team right there. Just looking at the two rosters, it's incredible, and just to show you how developed and how rich our junior lacrosse is here in Ontario, it's just amazing. Just amazes me.
Yeah, to that point, like in 2017, Thomas McConvey, who ended up going first overall as an offensive player, and who is an offensive player now, he actually played defense for us in that 2017 Minto Cup run. So it just goes to show the two different lineups that we had both in Mimico and Brampton, to have guys like Thomas McConvey, who goes on to score 120 points the next year for us in Mimico.
Right.
He was running out the back door in that Minto Cup run. So it just goes to show how skilled and how talented Ontario lacrosse, junior lacrosse is, and yeah.
Absolutely. Now, you went to the Hill Academy as your high school. I've had a bunch of guys from the Hill on there and a bunch of now coaches and teachers and that. Let's talk about it. Let's talk about the program and how it worked for you and how it got you ready for the future.
Yeah, so I went to the Hill in my grade 10 year, and honestly, I have no bad things to say about the Hill. I didn't go the NCAA way, but what they had taught and what they instilled in myself kind of ultimately made me who I am today. And I know I owe nothing but big respect for the Hill Academy. They taught me life skills, and they taught me how to live life and how to do it the proper way. And it's a great program. And although I didn't go the NCAA way, there's still stuff to take from that school, and they get you ready for life, and that's the biggest takeaway from me.
Right. Now, normally we talk about the coaches and things like that, but what do we talk about? What would be a typical day there?
Yeah, so our days would consist of getting up, going to the school, and at that point, it wasn't the facility they have now in Caledon. It was the Vaughan Sportsplex. It was a
Mm.
hockey arena in Vaughan. So we would get there at around 8 o'clock, and we would have a workout in the morning with our strength coach. And then after that, about an hour, we would head over to our practice field, and we would get about an hour and a half to 2 hour practice, lacrosse practice in the morning. And then we would come back, shower up, and then we would have our day of school. But it was great just to have that routine of working out, practicing every morning, because it developed my lacrosse skills and countless other kids' lacrosse skills. Just to have your stick in your hand every day. But yeah, that was a typical day at the Hill Academy.
Right. And so you wound up going to Laurier. How much did the Hill Academy have to do with you choosing Laurier, or was that just you going out that way?
Yeah, so I'll be honest, I didn't have the greatest grades in grade 9 and 10, and or sorry, grade 9 and 10. So sorry, I went to the Hill in my grade 11 year. So the
Mm.
first 2 years of high school, I didn't have the greatest grades. So when I got to the Hill, they kind of sat me down. They honed in my academic side of things and got me the grades I wanted. And my sister had previously gone to Laurier, so she had already told me how great the school was, how great the programs were. And at the time, I wanted to take psychology, and they kind of offered that program for me. So I applied to go there, and I got accepted. And um, I wouldn't have been able to get in if my grades didn't improve. And being at the Hill kind of sat me down and had that one-on-one with the teacher, and kind of helped me develop that side of things going into university.
Right. Right. A goalie that's a thinker. Think about that. I
Exactly.
don't like that. All right, so let's talk about Laurier. You've been primarily a box goalie. Laurier's couple of field. So
Yep.
how did that adjustment feel?
Yeah, so I would say, yeah, like I'm primary box goalie, but growing up I did play field lacrosse goalie because, like I said, I wasn't the greatest runner, and I wanted to be around my friends, and I wanted to be a part of something. And the goalie position was the way to go. So I played field lacrosse growing up in Mimico. So when I went to the Hill, it wasn't like I was thrown to the wolves, but it's a lot different. You're getting beat up by lacrosse balls on your shins, on your legs. You're not getting as many bruises in the box lacrosse game, but
Right.
yeah, there was a ton of rubber seen at Laurier. We didn't have the greatest team, but uh, it was a cool experience just to experience college lacrosse in Canada and to get to play it with guys at school, and it was a cool experience.
Now that program has actually come a long way since your time there. Um, let's talk a little bit about how it developed while you were there, and from there to where it is now. It's leaps and bounds now.
Exactly. Yeah. So they were in a transition period when I first started getting there, and Clancy Alms and Leo Sturos had taken over the coaching positions, and they did a great job with us. And you could see the kind of switch in attitude towards the players, like the older guys when I was there. Like it was just a lacrosse team, right? They showed up. They were there just to play lacrosse, and Leo and Clancy had changed the attitude of, well, we're a lacrosse team, but we're also going to work hard and we're going to be the best lacrosse team, or we're going to be a contender of a lacrosse program. And it kind of grew from there. And Clancy stepped down, I think, a couple years ago, and then Leo took over, and he brought in some good lacrosse minds to help the program, and they're starting to see success. Like this year, they had won a couple more games than they have in the years past. They made it to the playoffs, something that I never had a chance to do while I was at Laurier.
Right.
So it's a big step, and I think they are continuing to grow with that vision they had when they took over the team when I got there, and they're doing a great job with that program.
Absolutely. And the league is going to be just off the charts upcoming, especially with the change of commissioners with Scott Fox and Tom Bolesky taking the reins. So I have a feeling that we're going to see a lot more of it. It's actually going to be mainstream.
Exactly, and I think that's the biggest thing for that league in itself is there is from every organization or every college or university that's in that catchment. There's a lot of good lacrosse players, and I think it gets lost because it doesn't get the viewership it deserves. But
Yeah.
there is a lot of good lacrosse players that play in that league, and it's something that a lot of lacrosse people should start watching because my time there was countless of uh, players that go on to be NLL pros, and no one knew that they played for the Kufla lacrosse teams. Like in the NLL, you hear about all these kids who go to all the Division 1, Division 2 schools, but it kind of gets overlooked. The Kufla lacrosse and the amount of players that have played in that league who have had very good success at these universities are kind of getting overlooked. But I think it is trending in the right way to get viewership on that league because there's a ton of players that are really good.
Let alone the dedication. I remember Scott Dominey being on the show and talking about going to Nipissing and having to drive 8 hours just to make it a practice for back when he was with the Rock, and things like that were just like, wow, to go 8 hours
Exactly.
one way, 8 hours the other way, have a 3 hour practice in between it all, and still be alive to do school is
Yeah,
a whole other thing.
exactly. I was with the Rock at the time when Scott was doing those trips, and kudos to him because that's dedication. And like you said, the biggest thing, if you ask any lacrosse guy why they play the game, it's because they love it. And that is the perfect example. And Scott Domney loves the game of lacrosse, and he would do anything to go and play it. So I have nothing but respect for that. And like you said, there's a lot of players that have a lot of dedication in that league. Like I know the Laurier Lacrosse program, we would have practice at 7 o'clock in the morning, and you have Clancy driving from Hamilton to Kitchener Waterloo in the morning just to coach the practice. So it does take a lot of dedication, and it is something that should get more viewership because there's a lot that goes into that league, and a lot of players could be doing something else
Yeah.
because but they're there and they're loving what they do, and they need the recognition they deserve.
Let alone it's fantastic lacrosse, and it really has
Exactly.
to be seen.
Exactly. It's great lacrosse. It's a great product, and it needs to be seen.
All right, so let's get on to the NLL. You get drafted 30th overall by the Toronto Rock in 2017 in another stacked draft. Absolutely stacked draft. I remember being there. I remember being attracted the night you got drafted. I believe I had your picture with your new rock jersey.
Yeah.
Let's talk about your name gets called and the feeling.
Yeah. So the whole experience was pretty humbling. It goes back to that Minto Cup run, playing against Dougie and Delves and Kevin Orleman, guys who had already gotten drafted into the NLL. So I thought it was a great time to enter into the draft, not knowing I still had a year left to junior. So I entered, and I went to the combine. I had my interviews with a couple teams. But to get drafted by Toronto was just something special. I had season tickets to the Toronto Rock growing up. I sat up in the top corner and I watched every game from the time I was 4 or 5. It was just something my parents had done for us. They would give us season tickets every Christmas, and it was something we did. So to hear my name get called by the Toronto Rock was extra special, and to have it happen at the track, the practice facility of the Toronto Rock was even better because the team was there. Like Rosie was the first one to come shake my hand and say welcome to the team. Some guy that like Brett Hickey was there, and Challen Rogers. Like it was just a special moment, and then to share it with my family who was in attendance. It was just a dream come true, and something that I'll cherish forever.
Right. Now, your first training camp, was it what you expected?
To be honest, not really. Like I was so blind to the fact that there was even a training camp that happened in the NLL. I just thought guys showed up and the season started in December. But to know that there was a whole training camp beforehand was pretty eye opening. But it was awesome. I had two great mentors to lean on in Nick Rose and Brendan Miller. So just learning from them, that first training camp was a big deal in my growth as a goaltender, and it was awesome getting to see shots from like I said, Brett Hickey, Dan Littner was with the Rock at the time, and like Challen, all those guys. It was a pretty humbling experience too, because you jump from the junior size net to an NLL size net, and you think you got it covered, and there's a ball whipping past you, and you hear it go into the net, and it was it was a learning experience, but something that was pretty cool to experience at the same time.
Yeah, well, those kind of shooters, man, you give them this much room and that's where it's going, right there.
Exactly. They don't need much, and I learned that pretty quick in the first practice session of that training camp that they don't
Right.
need much.
What was it like working with Nick? You're on the team now, and Nick is starting, and you're backing Nick up. What was it like?
It was something that to this day I am super grateful for. The stuff that I learned from Nick as a goaltender is stuff that I use today as an NLL starter, and I have nothing but good things to say about Nick. And he just the demeanor he has. He's the type of goalie that is so calm and cool and collected that every goalie should incorporate it into the game. Like the biggest thing I learned when I was in Toronto was it's okay to get scored on in 3 or 4 goal runs, because as fast as they just scored 4 goals, we could score 4 goals just as fast, and just to be calm and making sure that you're making the saves that you need to be made, and that's just goes to the goalie Nick is, and that's why he is, in my opinion, the best goalie in the NLL right now, is because he makes the saves that need to be made, and
Mhm.
I'm kind of grateful that I got to learn from a goalie like him, because I'm starting to use that now as an NLL starter for Rochester.
Right. Well, I think Patty Campbell said it best is you may get to, one or two of those so-called questionable goals at the beginning of the game, but down the stretch in the, late third, fourth, you're not getting anywhere near that net with Rosie and net. So I
E-
believe that. I think that's true.
Exactly. Yeah, he is. He's the if you need to make a clutch save late in a game, you'd want Nick Rose in between the pipes, because he's the type of goalie that can steal you a game late in the fourth quarter, because his mentality from the start of the game to the end of the game is the same, and he will make you a save when you need to be make you a save, and um, like I said, that's why he's one of the best in the league. And
He'll score you a
but
couple of goals too.
exactly. If you need a goal from Rosie, he'll put it in the empty net too.
Now, you get your first action in Vancouver. It's January 8th, 2018, and it's a blowout. It's the Rock win, I think 24-7 or something like that. But you get in there and you look good. Now, your initial thing, nervous, excited, both.
Yeah. So to that game, I think we were up 8-0 at the time of the first TV timeout, and Nick came over to the bench and was like, "I've never been a part of this." But yeah, I was nervous. I was excited to get into that game. Uh, But the team we had was they were super supportive, and they basically told me, like, just go do your thing. We're up by a bunch. Do your thing, and uh, we'll be here to support you with whatever happens. And I think that was the biggest thing. Was I had a bunch of guys in front of me doing everything they could to let me see the shots that I wanted, and it was a fun experience, because obviously, like I said, I grew up in Toronto, and to wear that jersey as a first experience type thing was pretty special. And yeah, it was a low pressure situation, and
Yeah.
that's what I have so much respect for, like the coaching staff in Toronto, Matty Sawyer, Bruce Codd. They did a great job of doing that with myself, and you'll see them do that with Troy now. It's um, they put goalies in low pressure situations, and it honestly makes life so much easier. You get your NLL game action without having to grip your stick tight, or worry about if they score, like it's going to be the end of the world. Like there is
Right.
situations where, like, I would get in because Nick wasn't having the greatest game, and then you go out there and you play because you've been in those situations before. And
Hmm.
I owe nothing but kudos to them for sticking me in those situations, because it helped me in gaining that confidence that I needed to be when I was in those pressure situations, to
Right.
know that I've already had been in that
Was
scenario.
it easier being in Vancouver and not in Toronto, or would you rather have been Toronto and have the crowd just going absolutely nuts? Or
Yeah, honestly, uh, I would have rathered it be in Vancouver, just personally, because of the pressure situation type thing.
sure,
And it was one of those situations that it was good that it happened the way it did, and uh, it was
everything
awesome.
aligned for that? Yeah.
Exactly.
So 4 seasons in Toronto, the expansion draft happens. You get picked up by Vegas and then flipped right away to Rochester.
Mhm.
Initial feeling, you're now away from the Rock, and well, you spend about 12 minutes in Vegas, and
Yeah.
off you go to Rochester.
Yeah. So initially, it was like I had like the thing that people don't know is the expansion draft kind of happens before the expansion draft happens. So I
Right.
had already been aware of the situation, how it was going down. So initially, when all it was happening, it was a weird feeling, because it was something I wasn't used to. And all I knew was Toronto and how they rolled. And so I got a call from Sean Williams about a day before or 2 days before the NLL expansion draft and said, listen, this is what's going to happen. And this is how it's going to go down. And then Dan Carey called me about 10 minutes later and welcomed me to Rochester. And I have nothing but respects for Dan Carey and how he handled the situation. He kept me in the loop the whole time, and even to this day, he and the staff in Rochester have been nothing but top notch. They keep you in the loop, and they don't hide anything from you, and they're straightforward. And it was a great move in the sense that I went from one franchise that treated their players well to another franchise that treats their players just as well. And like I said, growing up, I would go to Toronto Rock games as a season ticket holder, but every time the Rock were on the road in either Buffalo or Rochester, I would go to watch those games too. So to be traded to another franchise, I know they're not the same Nighthawks as they were in the past, but it's the same arena, same fan base, and it's pretty special to throw on a Nighthawks jersey now too.
And you're basically there at grassroots too, because like the team had just more or less started a year or two before you, and now you're part of this growth of it's really a when this thing actually gets together, you guys are really a phenomenal team. You have a lot of scoring. You have a really good defense. You and net, and let's hope that Rylan Hartley gets healthy again. A 1-2 combination like that really is top notch in the NLL.
Exactly. And I think that's the biggest thing right now is the fans and everybody surrounding the league see as, oh, the Nighthawks are losing. The Nighthawks are losing. But if you look at the pieces we have in place, we have the makings of a great team, and we just need to figure out how all those great pieces work together to get the results that we want. And I think in the dressing room and around our team, we know that we're right there. If you look at the last 6 games, we've lost, with the exception to the Vegas game. We've lost the game by 1 or 2 goals, 3 goals max. So we're right there.
The
And
Georgia game you lost with 24 seconds left, and that was a hell of a comeback. Just shows character of that team.
Exactly, and that's the biggest thing. We have a bunch of guys in the room with a great amount of character, and I know that we're gonna figure it out, and we're gonna be a good team for a long time.
Right. What's it like working with Patty O'Toole?
It's awesome to have a goalie like Patty O'Toole and the success he had in our league, and just kind of bouncing things off of him and how he approaches the goaltenders and kind of the way we go about things it's pretty special because Patty was a great goalie in the NLL, and to be able to go from one franchise of having Nick Rose, who is a current goalie who's having success, to another franchise of having an NLL Hall of Famer on the bench to bounce things off, it was just a seamless transition. And Patty has been nothing but supportive and a great coach in the aspects of being able to bounce goaltending ideas off, because you could go to a D coach or you could go to a head coach and ask them a goalie question, and they look at you with the cross eyes. But we have a goalie behind our bench, and it's something that is super helpful when it comes to goaltending issues.
Sure, not just any goalie, a Hall of Fame goalie behind the bench. So.
Exactly, a Hall of Fame goalie like he is, and it is special.
Now, since you don't have enough playing with NLL and all the other things you do, major series lacrosse, and you're with Brooklyn.
Yep.
And you won Defensive Player of the Year last year. Congratulations.
Thank you very much.
The last couple of years, it's really been it's been weird in there with teams out and teams in. And so I reckon back to the COVID tournament. And really, that's where Brooklyn made their statement. And really, your foray of jumping in and playing for them. Let's talk a little bit about the Brooklyn organization and more or less the rebuild to the glory days of the Redmen.
Yeah, exactly. Like you said, the rebuild we have going on, Brad has done a great job, and if anything goes to show that, like you said, that COVID tournament shows that we're going to be a scary team in the future, and the pieces we have, if we stick together for the next couple of years, I think we'll be a deadly team. And like the last couple of years, like last year, we played against Peterborough in the first round of the playoffs, and we took them to Game 5. Like we battled, and we were competing with the Man Cup champions at that time. And then this year, like same thing. We went to the first round. We lost in 4, but I think all games were super close. We were 1 or 2 goals off, and we're just young, and we're learning. And Brad's done a good job at bringing in guys that want to play and want to be there and want to love the game. And I think that's what's going to separate us in a couple of years. Is we're going to have a team full of guys who are now men, and we're going to work our bags off, and we're going to compete, and we're going to hopefully win a Man Cup. And that's
it's a feisty team, that's for sure.
Exactly, a feisty team that just goes out there and plays the game of lacrosse and doesn't worry about all the outside shenanigans that happen in the major series lacrosse. And I think Brad's done a really good job of drafting players that have that mentality of coming in and they just play. And I think that'll go a long way in the next couple of years, and hopefully we reap the rewards.
Yeah. Now, we only had a couple of minutes left, and I do want to still touch upon your coaching. And you've had a number of years at the track coaching. What are you doing now, coaching wise?
So I coach at the track, and that's kind of where I fell in love with coaching. They did a good job. Jamie has that Rocket League program up and running along with Colin Doyle. And then this year I accepted the head coaching job of the Mimico Junior B Mountaineers. Just something that I wanted to give back to. I grew up watching the Junior B team, and now that I have the opportunity to be a part of the Mimico organization again in the coaching role, it's something special. And hopefully with this, I can reach the goal of coaching the Junior A team and then an NLL team one day. But yeah, coaching is something I take super seriously, and I have passion for, because I love watching young kids grow and achieve their goals, just like I did when I was younger. I played in the Rocket League, and I had coaches like Patty Campbell and Stephen LeBlanc on my side, and the impact that they had on my development as a player is something that I want to instill in kids growing up, is just being there and having a supportive role in their development of the game and growing the game of lacrosse to something that it should be. Like, it's taken so many steps in the right direction, and if I can help in any way coaching the younger age groups and youth levels to make it even greater is something that I'll take great pride in.
Absolutely. Well, that was a very quick 50 minutes, wasn't it?
Yeah, exactly.
Just before we're done, with the Olympics coming up, what's your opinion on sixes?
I think it's a great way to introduce the world of lacrosse. And I know it's not the typical box lacrosse that I love playing, and it's not the typical field lacrosse that some Americans like playing, but I think it's the great mix of both games in a sense that will get the eyes of people around the world on the game of lacrosse, and that'll be a good stepping stone to them being like, oh, I like this game. And then to find out that there's 2 other options to it will be only beneficial to our game. And I'm looking forward to see what this game will do for the growth of lacrosse.
Absolutely. Well, Riley, I wish you the best of luck. I wish the Nighthawks the best of luck. I'm looking forward to seeing you again in the next couple of weeks. I should be out there again for a game, and we'll chat then.
Absolutely. Thank you for having me, and I appreciate what you're doing here, and it's only growing our game even better. So thank you so much.
Absolutely. This show can also be heard on the Spanglish World Radio Network. Please check out spanglishworld.ca for all news and programming. Spanglish World. Watch it, hear it, read it, download it, live it. Until next week, we'll see you again Thursday, 4 p.m. Bye-bye.